Good evening. The Board of Trustees of Colerain Township convened today, April 27th, 2021, 6 p.m. Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Rajgopal?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
The Board of Trustees will adjourn for the executive sessions.
Yes, sir. I recommend that the board move to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and/or compensation of public employees. Also in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G8, to consider confidential information relating to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance. And also in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G3, to discuss pending or imminent litigation and court action with the township attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
I would motion that we go into executive session for the reasons Mr. Mills detailed.
I second. Any discussions? Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajgopal?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Board of Trustees will adjourn for the executive sessions. We'll be back. 7 p.m., Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. The Board of Trustees return from the executive sessions. Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Rajgopal?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
There is nothing to report from executive session.
Okay, thank you. Let's start our regular sessions by standing and pledge to. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. This is a meditation. Let us keep in our heart around the world, the massive people are dying of the coronavirus. And also, let's keep in prayer our country, especially senior citizens, children, for their safety and their families. Thank you. Be seated, please. The next on the agenda is Fiscal Office approval of minutes.
Thank you, Board. I have two sets of minutes that I would ask the Board to approve. The first is the minutes from the special meeting on April 8th, 2021.
I'll motion to approve.
I seconded. Any discussions?
Not from me.
None.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajgopal?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank
Board.
you.
Secondly is the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees on April 13th, 2021.
I have a motion to approve this minutes.
I will second it.
Any discussions?
I think there was one typo on that I sent you, Jeff.
You did. I corrected that. Mr. Waller also had a correction that he sent to me, and I corrected that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussions further? No. Roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajgopal?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda is a presentation.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Rajgopal, Board of Trustees. Our first item is a presentation by Chief Alan Walls for the introduction and swearing in of promoted employees. Chief Walls.
Good evening, Board. Good evening to everyone else in attendance here, and good evening to those watching from home. And so tonight, we'll have two swearings in. Amber Francis was approved for hire and promotion during the March 9th, 2021 board meeting, and new career firefighter Colin Froschauer was approved for hire and promotion during the April 13th, 2021 board meeting. So at this time, I would like for Amber to come forward. Amber is accompanied this evening by her parents, Paul and Vicki, and likewise by her boyfriend, Stephen Grossman, who's going to pin her here shortly. So Amber is a graduate of East Central High School. She's also a graduate of the Cincinnati State Paramedic Program, the Butler Tech Fire School. She's a firefighter too. She's a paramedic and a continuing education instructor, and she was one of our 2019 EMS Providers of the Year.
Congratulations. Parents want to take a picture with her? Your parents?
Some mics.
We'll have you stand right here and we'll get a couple pictures real quick. if you'd like. You're good. I may need to borrow your mouse to wipe my forehead in a minute. Next, we'll have Colin Froschauer. Colin's accompanied by his fiancee, Madison Rogers, who will likewise do the pinning. Colin is a graduate of South Dearborn High School, where he received technical honors. He's also a graduate of the Colerain Fire Academy. He's a firefighter 2 EMT, and he will graduate from the Cincinnati State Colerain Campus Paramedic Program in May of 2021. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
Colin Froschauer,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and its bylaws.
and its bylaws.
I will abide by the Colerain Township Department of Fire and EMS mission statement.
I will abide by the
Colerain Township
Colerain Township Fire EMS
mission statement.
mission statement,
Values.
values,
Code of ethics.
code of ethics,
Standard operating guidelines.
standard operating guidelines,
And the township's policies and procedures.
and the township's policies and procedures.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic
And I'll faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic
in and for Colerain Township,
and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County,
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio,
State of Ohio,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda is citizen address, Mr. Rich McVeigh.
Hello, Rich.
All right.
It's on? Hey, thanks for opening up the meeting. It's a pleasure to be here. I know you guys, I talked with you about it last week, and you gave it some thought, and you moved forward. I think it's great for our community, and I'm sure more people will be showing up in the weeks to come. I think it's also good to see people who've worked hard, going to school and getting an education, being recognized in public and getting a job. It's maybe you remember when that happened to you. It's a great feeling for them, and it should be for the community. And I wish them well, and I know that the rest of the township does. Last week, you guys approved a contract with Rumpke for solid waste. And had I had a chance to come in and talk with you, I would have mentioned some things. So I'm going to do it tonight if I can briefly. Back in January, you essentially authorized Mr. Mills to sign a contract with Cost Management Alliances, a company who is a subsidiary of Engineering Alliances, to work on bringing this Rumpke quote forward. They really had no experience in this before. But the contract that we developed, and I think that they developed and we signed, that's an important point, had some interesting things in it. It said they wanted to have the exclusive rights to provide solid waste removal and management cost containment and reduction services. They would analyze solid waste removal and management needs, patterns, and history, and formulate recommendations to reduce costs. And based on that information, they'd establish a baseline for spending and set forth specific cost reduction measures and estimated cost savings. That was in the contract. They also said that fees for the services would be paid by the vendor. So what did they do? I don't know if you guys looked at the contract that you had with Cost Management, or if you looked at the contract that we had with Rumpke the past time, or if you looked at the contract that you've now signed. But essentially, what they did was take the previous contract, take out the word Rumpke, insert vendor, and that's what they put out for quote. So essentially, there was very little that they added to the quote system other than just looking at the old contract and changing Rumpke's name. They were also unable to get more than one company to bid, which is interesting. That's why you have the process. You want to introduce some competition. They weren't able to do that. This is a closed bidding system, so the quote provided by Rumpke, it was not affected by Cost Management, even though that they said in their plan that's what they wanted to try to do. In fact, over the last 5-year contract with Rumpke, over 5 years, the rates increased a total of 7.2% from over the 5 years. In the new contract, the rates increased 7.2%. No change. What Cost Management decided they wanted to do was to provide some services for the residents that in the past Rumpke was providing. Specifically, they were going to help people signing up or dealing with issues. So in the past, if a resident was moving or if they were coming into the area, they contacted Rumpke directly, or if they had some issues, they contacted Rumpke. And now Cost Management has put themselves into the position where they want to handle those issues. Now, for that, in the contract, they're getting, I think it's about 10 cents per unit. Over 5 years, that's about $200,000 for the work that they provided. And my view of it is that they really didn't give us anything. And if you looked at the contract, the old contract and the new contract, I think you would draw the same conclusions. I'm not sure that you even did that, okay? And I think it's serious that you didn't. I think you dropped the ball on this thing. You know, I'm taking you to the woodshed on it, even though you've passed it. There's no reason why I can't call you out on the fact that you've given away $200,000 of residents' money, okay? And there was nothing, you're shaking your head, Mr. Unger, but there's nothing in the paperwork that they provide or in the contract that substantiates that they did any work for the township. Maybe they have some other connections with the township and the money is flowing some other way. I have no way of knowing. Maybe you do. On to a second point. It appears the township wants to yet initiate another study. This time it's intended to produce a facility master's plan. It says in your pre-work, it's critical to both short and long-term future of the township. Will have an impact for decades, dealing with other things like energy and efficiency, operational efficiencies, expansion of assets, and utilization of underutilized assets. Now, having had personal experience with facility master plannings in the past, I would be remiss not to warn the trustees to expect a Christmas or wish list of what everybody wants in the township or what they think they need. Now, the proposed vendor, Emerson Design, has a history of proposing green infrastructure and projects based on lead engineering, low energy engineering design stuff. So that's their specialty. What they offer around operating efficiency, who knows? Okay. I suppose you're going to go forward with it. That's your decision. But I would encourage you to spend more time thinking about what this township can afford with the existing revenue and not require additional taxes. Because when you'll get this wish list, it's going to cost money, because that's what they always do. So that's what I want to say on that point. I mean, you guys are going to pass it, but what you're going to get is a wish list of what everybody wants. And you're going to have to find out how you can afford to do it without passing any tax increases, because there's a lot of us who would oppose that. Now, relative to other board commitments in the past, what's the status of getting a new sign over I-275? Guys, we've been dealing with that for 4 years. Nothing's happened. When will the board take action to deal with the donation boxes and the trash that's accumulating around them? Raj, you said we were going to have something on the agenda in April to deal with that. It's not here. What's the status of traffic calming devices in North Rec? The residents have been asking for that for at least 4 or 5 years. Nothing. When will be starting a sidewalk along Joseph Road? There's no reason why you can't put a sidewalk along Joseph Road. I talked this with Mr. Weckman. You have the authority in the ORC to do it. You have the funds. Apparently you don't have the willpower. And the residents have told you that they want it. When will we be seeing action coming from the Colerain corridor study? Another study. When will we be seeing action coming from the Northbrook strategic plan? They're going to launch another plan tonight down in Groesbeck, and fine, that's probably good work, and I can support that. But when are you going to do something about this stuff? Another study that we put in the rock, put in the shelf. Now, you have a behavior of doing that. Now, why is this board researching the cost of becoming a city? Where the hell did that come from? Who's telling you that this place needs to be a city? It's in your strategic plan that you approved. Maybe you didn't read it. Some of us did. I bring these up because it appears that the issues that residents are having been asking for years are taking back seats to projects that the administration favors. It appears that trustees don't care about what residents are asking for. Who beats the drum around here? The administration or the residents? Now, I know you guys made some election commitments and you're up for election again. You're not listening to the residents. Your behaviors are obvious. What happens here, what gets decided, what gets done. So I'll just leave you with that. You know, you are marching to the drum of the administrator and you're not marching to the drum of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. The next on the agenda is administrative reports. Do you want to reply, Mr.?
I'll start with the administrative report, and to Mr. McVeigh's point about the Rumpke contract. Yes? Yes. To Mr. McVeigh's point about the Rumpke contract, we continue to negotiate the best possible outcome for the township, and that's ongoing. I hope that I hope that by the next trustee meeting, we'll have a resolution to the contract that I bet you would like. So so stay tuned. Hopefully we have good news for you in 2 weeks. And just to the other points that you raised, the donation boxes is underway. We're looking at a licensing program or registration program for the donation boxes. The traffic calming devices in Northbrook, we have we've worked with engineers to get designs and cost estimates, and so far they're expensive, and so we haven't brought those forward because we haven't identified a funding source for them yet. Let's see here. The Joseph Road side. Wait.
Mr. McVeigh. I understand. You got the money. Yeah, let him explain.
I'm just trying to respond to the things that he says so that he has, right.
Conversation back and forth.
There we go.
Okay. This is response time.
The Joseph Road sidewalk, we completed engineering on the Joseph Road sidewalk, and there needed to be a construction easement given from the Kissel Park condominium folks, and the Kissel Park condominium folks would not give us a construction easement, and so that is on standby. It's all engineered and ready to go. We just need that construction easement to continue there. The Colerain Avenue
would you please listen? This all is responding your things. This is not a conversation time. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. We'll respond.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So the Colerain Avenue corridor study continues to lead our efforts on the corridor, and in fact, because of that corridor study, we are able to apply for funding sources that are outside of the township's coffers, and that's really critically important. We don't own Colerain Avenue, and so in order to make improvements on Colerain Avenue, we have to find partners. And working with Mr. Rajagopal and his relationships with SORTA and working with Odot, we're identifying opportunities to fund the Colerain Avenue corridor plan. And that's really important. We don't have, as Mr. McVeigh pointed out, we don't have endless amounts of money, and we have to be very judicious with that money. The Northbrook Strategic Plan, there have been items from the Northbrook Strategic Plan in every township strategic plan since it was created. So that is absolutely very much being implemented by the township. And so anyway, that hopefully that addresses all the issues that Mr. McVeigh raised.
Let me, a couple of things he asked about me, Mr. McVeigh. I said last Monday, the CEO, and the vice president, general manager, and Mr. Weckbach and Jackie, we drove around, actually saw the bus route and everything, what are we going to do. Actually, they promised to give us a grant, which is, Jackie's preparing to apply for the grant, which is including the benches and everything. You mentioned about the Colerain Avenue corridor plan. I read this every day, and I'm working hard on that, like a Metro involved in this. They're going to give the money. Also, the Odot already had the grant, Tommy, to work on the corridor plan. Now, I'm working with the Steve Shabbat, the U.S. Congressman, and they had a earmark a project with. We're gonna try to get the funding for the Colerain Avenue project, which is a federal highway, and Mr. Jeff Mills and Joe Abner, the representative from the U.S. Congressman Steve Shabbat, they're connecting with the Washington, D.C. We're preparing the package to submit. Like I mentioned, this is about $53 million project, corridor plan, and it could be done. It could be done with the state government, the federal government. It's a long process, and we are moving forward on that. And Mr. Mills preparing the package to submit to the U.S. Congress. So that's it.
Sure.
And pretty much wrap up the citizens' address.
Yeah, that concludes my administrative report, and I believe Ms. O'Connell has an administrative report.
Mr. Mills,
Yes.
if I could, I don't know if this goes to you or Ms. O'Connell. I'd like to, for the next meeting, have some kind of a thank you resolution provided for Catholic Relief Services and for Free Store Food Bank and all the folks that were involved with coordinating with the 5 or 6 visits. We might need to do some internally too for folks that
Sure.
that gave up some time. I think that's important to thank them for the hard work that they did, and I'd like to do that.
Would you like to do a proclamation or a resolution? A proclamation is usually how we handle
Yeah,
those.
usually, well, I know that we did for the capital grant from the Ohio budget, we did a thank you letter
Yep.
by all of us. I don't know,
Sure, we could do a letter.
something like that, just to kind of let them know that we appreciate the efforts.
Okay, I'll do a letter.
Thank you, sorry.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have an exciting announcement, an unusual announcement. We are building the first cricket field in Hamilton County. So members of our Bhutanese and Nepali community approached us about finding space so that they could have a cricket field for their community to practice and play cricket, because now they have to travel to Reynoldsburg, Louisville, or Lexington to play. So we were able to find space for them at Dravo Park, and we're working on constructing a cricket field out there. So they told us that they will have days where they invite the public to learn how to play cricket and learn about their culture, so we're very excited about that.
Also mentioned about pickleball.
Yes,
court.
so we are still working on pickleball. We have spec'd out a site behind the community center, and so we're getting quotes on that, the construction on that right now.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yep. So cricket and pickleball coming to you soon. We have an event coming up on Memorial Day, May 31st at 10 a.m. We will celebrate Memorial Day again with a brief ceremony at the Veterans Memorial, honoring the veterans who have lost their lives and the township employees who have lost their lives in the line of duty. That's at 10 o'clock on Memorial Day. And we are having, just so people know and put it on their radars, we are having 4th of July this year. So the Summer Events Committee is meeting and putting that together. We are looking for sponsors, so if anybody from the business community wants to help us and sponsor events or portions of that event, that would be great and most appreciated.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell.
Thank you.
Mr. Weckbach or Mr. Walls, do you have a report this evening? Nope. Okay, that concludes the administrative reports.
Okay, thank you. The trustees report,
Sure, I'll go first, Raj.
go ahead. Oh, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Thank you. Responding to your comments, Mr. McVeigh, we don't talk to each other outside of meetings, so I don't know what the other two are thinking, and that's kind of the design of it. In regards to your questions about the Rumpke contract, we authorized Jeff Mills to go negotiate that, and I think it's going to turn out entirely differently than you think, and I hope so, and I hope he'll be able to announce that. I don't believe it's signed yet, but I think it's going to turn out entirely differently than that. The collection boxes, I know we're working on a licensing program for that, but that's I haven't talked to the other two guys about it to see where they're at, but those are on private property. Yes, some of them become unkept. I did get a picture of one from a citizen about a month ago, and it showed stuff scattered all over the place. And I went over, it was the one over on Springdale Road by First Financial Bank, and that citizen sent me that picture, and I thought, oh my God, this looks terrible. So it was a Sunday evening. I got in my car and drove up there at 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening, and everything in the picture, which I got earlier that day, there was none of that there. And I came to find out that citizen sent me a 2-year-old picture. And, I'm fine running around looking at stuff, but if there's a problem with the collection boxes, I'm happy to go out and look at them, but please don't send me a 2-year-old picture and send me on a wild goose chase after it. The sidewalks on Joseph Road, we do need a construction easement so the guys can step onto that property to construct forms for the concrete sidewalks. And yes, we've got a right-of-way, but it's just from an engineering point of view, we would actually need to go into somebody's private yard to work on it, and it seems that that organization over there, the homeowners group, is pretty hell-bent on not letting us do that. So the corridor study, you need stamped engineered plans. I just can't go hack something out of the curb and install something. You need an engineer to look at it, and that's what that was. I know that I've gotten some emails from Queen City Metro since they've passed the issue 7 sales tax increase, which I was against, but the fact of the matter is there is some funding available for that, and the email that I got, I just forwarded it to Jackie, and I don't know if the other guys got those same emails or not from SORTA or Queen City Metro, but there is grant funding available to do, I guess, some of the projects you talked about, Raj, which are some bump outs for Queen City Metro buses to pull over. I know over in Green Township on Cheviot Road in front of White Oak Shopping Center, when Ray Pruce redid Cheviot Road, they put a pretty nice bump out there in front of White Oak Shopping Center so that buses would not get a bunch of traffic stacked up behind it. To everybody else, I do continue to go out and respond to the folks that call me at 404-3057, and most recently last week I was over looking at one in a little bit over there off Pippin Road on a street called Tiverton, and I hope we get that worked out, and 3 other ones just in the past week. And I'm trying real hard to be responsive, and if anybody needs anything, please give me a call. And last thing is I'm real excited about the July 4th fireworks, and I want to see them go on, and it's an outdoor event, and I see no reason we couldn't do it. We just need to have some nice weather. So that's my report, Raj.
Thank you, Dan. Matt,
Thank you. It's good to have people back in the audience, but so everybody watching, please come. We're open for business now. In response to one of the things Mr. McVeigh said, the sign over I-275, when we went over the budget, I said I was responsible for axing that because it was costly, and I don't know how we do it to close down I-275, and I guess it was a previous meeting, probably over a year ago, where Mr. Unger suggested that the next time they do some work on that portion of I-275, maybe we use that as an opportunity when it's closed to get some kind of crane out there and get the thing done.
To have traffic control out there and shut it down, it would be the middle of the night. Just the traffic control would be $20,000,
Right.
and that's before you even got out there and started messing with the lettering on the sign.
The donation boxes, this is an onion with many layers. I found out the past 2 weeks that some of these places actually are collecting rental fees for allowing the donation boxes to be in their driveway, in their parking lot, which I think complicates it even more. I found, and I talked to Thornton's on Colerain about this, and I found that just instead of the first approach going to them seems to be helpful. I know that with Thornton's, I called them up. I called the area manager, and they were out. And the last 3 or 4 times I've been by, it's been clean. And I believe then that manager reached out to Mr. Mills, and they suggested they were actually going to hire somebody that was going to take care of trash there. So we're working through some of those things. Northbrook and Groesbeck. Thanks to them for allowing me to sit in with their meeting with Homebase. We had talked in the CIC about creating a CDC, which I think goes to the point of what are we doing with these strategic plans with Northbrook and with Groesbeck. Homebase is going to open up a lot of doors, I think, for Northbrook and Groesbeck in order to get funding for some of the things they want to do and just to give them some outside-the-box ideas. And that's something I think we'll have on the next CIC agenda. If I'm not, yeah, okay. Other than that, enjoy the weather, and I know we're a local thing here, but Raj kind of alluded to it. I don't know how true the reports are, but some of the things coming out of India, let's just keep them in our prayers. That's just heinous what they're going through right now. The numbers just boggle the mind, and hopefully, I look forward to a time when we don't ever have to deal with this again, hopefully soon. But other than that, I think that one thing that all 3 of us have in common is that we're pretty reachable by phone, by text, or by email, one way or another, just reach out if you need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. You're absolutely right, and Dan mentioned also with 3 trustees, we respond the residents' request, and then we relay some messages to Jeff Mills, and he takes care of it. Tomorrow, Jeff and me are going to see some elderly people, the residents that have some issues, and we're going to meet them at 10 o'clock. So this board, that's one thing the nice about, even though we don't talk each other outside of the meeting, but we take care of the residents' request. When we hear that, we pass it along to Jeff Mills. If Jeff is not there, Jeff Weckbach and Jackie, also outstanding. Any issues in the roads, anything, we send her an email. She takes care of it same day, and admire. Then I'm very excited about a lot of residents. When I go and play pickleball, other town, they all ask me, when are you going to put Colerain? How come Colerain has a pickleball court? But it's coming, and we're going to do that. I'm very excited, and we're going to put that right close to the senior citizens. It's good for them to also access. They then walk up there and play a game, good exercise for them. That's a great thing going. Also, again, I mentioned earlier that Colerain corridor plan is right in my heart, and I'm working hard at this. And we're going to prepare the package, send to the, because the U.S. Congress just passed a transportation bill. It comes under the earmark, which is a big bill, so the bridges and everything, but we try to include Colerain Avenue because it's one of the oldest of interstate here. So those are the good things going for the township. We got a lot of economic developments going on, and we're going to go to the TIF district in the Groesbeck area. That segment of the area is going to grow up. I'm excited. Then lately, the code enforcement is, even though we are short of people, and they're really aggressively working on this, it's the best thing happened. We're combining the code enforcement with the police department, and we're going to the positive direction and subduing this litter control issues. That's my.
I have one other comment, which is pretty current. I had talked to Jackie about this just as we came into the meeting, and it's just an example of how we all try to work together. Is somebody lost the liner out of their pickup truck, and it must have blew out around 4200 Blue Rock Road on the curve there, just south of Galbraith. And as an example, I talked to Jackie about that tonight, and because we have a public works department and we have an employee that goes out as strike force for litter, Jackie will probably get somebody out there tomorrow to pick it up. But I mean, that's kind of how we all work together. I look at all of us as easy to contact, and if I get something, I try to hand it off to the right person, and which I think I've done, and that's how stuff gets taken care of. So if you see something out there, call any of the 3 of us, and I'm sure when Roger or Matt see something, they let Jackie know also.
Sure. You're right, Dan. Some of the issues, the residents call us about the Colerain Avenue. We don't simply say, this is a Odot issues. We're not going to do it. Then I call Odot, tell them, same times I also call Jackie. She follows through it. If Odot don't get it on time, she sends the crews out and make it cleaned up the place.
Right, and Blue Rock is a county road, but
Yeah.
hopefully, and it's a pretty dangerous spot where this
Right.
is at on that curve, but I'm sure that our Public Works Department will do their best. But
Yeah.
just if people don't think we're doing that, we are all doing that. So, thanks, Rob.
I really want to thank our Public Works employees. They did an outstanding job in the past snow, even now. They're doing a great job. Please pass it to, okay? Thank you very much for all these reports. The next on the agenda is new business.
Yes, sir. The first items of new business are in the Department of Public Services, and they'll be presented by Mrs. O'Connell.
Hello
This is
again.
unusual that I'm the only one up here tonight. I've got 3 items of business tonight, gentlemen. The first one is a resolution to participate in the Odot Cooperative Purchasing Program. By the ORC, we are provided the opportunity to participate in the Odot contracts. We would like to use this particular contract. We would like to use a particular contract for cape sealing, which is contract 101G-22. It's to Strouser Construction for cape sealing and microsurfacing. And to participate, you need to approve a resolution that I need to send to the state to get in the program. So I would ask that you adopt the resolution to participate in the Odot Cooperative Purchasing Program.
I motion that we pass a resolution to participate in the Odot Cooperative Purchasing Program.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
I know that what that product is, and we did it on some streets over off of Pool Road back in the subdivision, and it looks a little rough at first, but once it wears in, it's great, and it's half the cost of paving, and it helps us keep our streets that are serviceable. It extends the life of them. It's a product, it's a maintenance product, and puts a new wearable surface on an existing pavement, so.
Yes, as you all know, it's cheaper to maintain the roads than it is to put new
Right.
roads in.
And I
so
think it's a great idea, and I'm certainly support it, so.
Thank you.
I think we're doing a great job in building a working relationship with Odot. This first time I'm seeing this, and the Odot is very cooperative and helping the Colerain Township, and your Public Works Department do a great job working together.
Yeah, they're very helpful for us.
Good, thank you. So any other discussions?
Not from me.
None?
The roll call, please.
Mr. Unger,
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
and Mr. Waller.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is a motion to approve a MOU with ASME regarding vacation time. So recently, the ASME union and the administration met to discuss accruals, vacation accruals and processes. As part of that conversation, it was determined that they would like to update the language in the bargaining unit contract, and just to reflect the same policy language that we have in the Colerain Township policy book. So I would like you to approve the MOU with ASME regarding vacation time.
A motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Federation of State, Community, County, and Municipal Employees Vacation.
I will second it.
Any discussions?
And so for those who are wondering, it allows a certain number of hours of vacation to accumulate per pay period. I know there's been some folks that have showed up in the past and wonder if we front load all the vacation. That's not the way I read this. It's, you just keep building up hours every pay period.
As
So,
an accrual, yes.
yes, that's how it works. We don't front load vacations on this kind of stuff.
That's correct.
Jeff, on the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Item 2, paragraph, I think 3, I don't have it with me, I read it, and I want to bring it. It says, the end, starting days, is it 2025, one it says? You see that, the starting date? So you got 2 different starting date, one for the military people,
Oh, yes. Yeah, so that's when we recognize their service,
2025, is it? What do you say?
2020 for military service. That's when the policy was updated to make that change.
Yeah,
So if you started before July 14th, 2020, the township didn't recognize military service. But moving forward, as it relates to your vacation.
so the time you mentioned is right, other.
Yep.
Okay.
That's correct.
That if you were in the military for a few years, that counts towards your service
Don't
time.
talk about other category, not the military, people who
For
work.
new hires, the effective date for recognizing service from other governments was May 26, 2015.
Good.
Yeah, so if you came from, Dearborn County or, Brown County or something like that, then the board in 2015 made the change to policy.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussions? Roll call, please, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Unger,
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
Mr. Waller.
Aye.
And the last item is a motion to approve the auction of excess vehicles and equipment. In the public services fleet, we have 8 vehicles and pieces of equipment that we'd like to dispose of via gov deals. The items have no trade-in value, so we would hope to sell these and at least create some revenue out of them. So I ask that you approve the auction of the excess vehicles and equipment.
I would motion that we approve the auction of excess vehicles and equipment.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
Not from me.
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
O'Connell.
Thank you.
The next items of new business come from the Planning and Zoning Department. I'll go ahead and take those. The first one is a resolution approving a major change to an agreed judgment and consent decree, which would increase the square footage of building area at the parcel referenced in the caption. This is explained more fully in your agenda packet, but the long and the short of it is in 1997, Lowe's wanted to construct a Lowe's. However, it was the zoning on the property was R2, and at the time, the Zoning Commission Board of Trustees did not want to make that zone map amendment that would allow for Lowe's to be constructed. Lowe's subsequently took the matter to court, and the result was a judgment from the court saying, declaring that Lowe's could be built. And there was a judgment and consent decree that was issued at the end of that process that said, Lowe's, go ahead and change it. Well, in the intervening years, the zoning has not been changed. And so now, in 2021, Lowe's would like to construct an addition to their property, a 3,200 square foot addition to the north side of the property to accommodate a tool rental section. And so in order to construct that, per the consent decree, it's the Board of Trustees that need to authorize that. And so this is a very unique situation that doesn't happen very often, in which the Board of Trustees needs to take action in order for a building to expand. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution.
I will go ahead and motion that we adopt a resolution approving major change to an agreed judgment and consent decree increasing square footage of building area on Hamilton County parcel number 510-0182-0056-00.
Second.
Any discussions?
I think it's great that their business is thriving and they want to expand right here in Colerain Township. It will increase the tax valuation of the property and benefit the township that way, as well as providing additional services for their customers.
So, Mr. Mills, I'm having a hard time understanding. So they went to court for this and got the outcome they wanted, needed to file something that they didn't file. Are they going to file what they need to file? Why are we intervening before they do that, I guess?
So in the consent decree, what they said was, if there was going to be a major change that results in the expansion of the building, then it's what they referenced as the defendant, I believe, had the power to grant that change, and that defendant in this case is the Colerain Township Board of Trustees. So the consent decree sort of provided a separate pathway to expansion of the building. My final resolution to this problem is, once we get our planning and zoning functions back in order, there are a number of instances where the zoning map needs to be cleaned up, and I'd like to have all of those come forward. One of those would be the Lowe's property, and do a map amendment that would clean all that up.
But I guess my point is, so they had to take an action after this agreed judgment and entry and consent decree, and they did not take that action.
I think it was a may rather than a shall.
Okay, all right, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Okay.
Yeah, and the township also, I believe the township also had the option of changing it, but did not.
I get that. I just want them to
Yeah.
take the onus on it if it was a shall.
Right.
I want that done first. If it's a may, I get the distinction.
Yep, that's right.
And I understood it to be a may, and it was a consent decree, which that was how it was worked out
Yep.
at the time.
Very rare. This is a very, very rare situation.
And there's been a lot of change on that north part of Colerain Avenue in the last, that's been 25 years ago.
Yep.
Any further discussions? Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger,
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
Mr. Waller.
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item is the standard resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. So the recommendation is the adoption of a resolution that allows for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and/or trash at the following properties: 2848 Brampton, 9247 Coogan, 3142 Deschler, 9832 Dunraven, 8244 Georgiana, 2859 Kingman, 2378 Lincoln, 7681 Livingston, 9838 Laura Linda, 2563 Niagara, 8944 Pippin, 3198 Regal, 2795 Springdale, 9757 Yuba. The recommendation is to adopt this resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement.
I motion that we adopt a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement on the properties detailed in the agenda.
I second it. Any discussions?
Not from me.
I think we're going very aggressively forward in, cleaning up all these discarded properties. We're going in the right direction on this. Any,
No, thank you for putting that together
Yes, sir.
so we could address those issues.
roll call, please, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Unger,
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
Mr. Waller.
Aye.
The next items of new business come from the Administration Department, and the first item is a resolution authorizing the adoption of appropriations for CARES Act. That item will be presented by Mr. McElravy.
Good evening, Board. The resolution before you is a bit of good news. Having closed the books on 2020, there are still some CARE funds that are available for appropriation, and the resolution before you would appropriate $101,534.46 in CARES funding for eligible expenses very similar to the ones that this board has appropriated for in the past. That would be, personal protective equipment, police and fire salaries for eligible public safety employees, and uses along that line. So the staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
I would motion we adopt the resolution authorizing the adoption of appropriations, coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security CARES Act.
Second.
Any discussions?
I do appreciate you being diligent in looking for this funding as it's available and getting it for the township.
Thank you.
Thank you for working on it.
I echo those sentiments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No other comments from me.
Roll call, please. Thank you.
Mr. Unger,
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
Mr. Waller.
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Mr. McElravy.
Jeff.
And the amount of work that has gone into the administration of these CARES Act dollars is unbelievable. And so just to echo, thank you, Mr. McElravy, for all your work on that. The next item in administration is a resolution authorizing the reconstruction of existing sidewalks and curbs on Colerain Avenue by Odot. This is a resolution that is required by Odot, and it formalizes our agreement with Ohio Department of Transportation. It assigns roles and responsibilities, and as it relates to the Colerain Avenue Streetscape project and sidewalk project, this is the one between John Rose and Shady Crest. This is the one that we received $750,000 or so in grant money for, and there's a local match that's being covered by the Duke TIF. So no levy funds going into this. So great opportunity. It's going to be transformational for the neighborhood. I was out there last night or late yesterday afternoon, walking the site and going over, taking field notes on the very most preliminary design. It's going to be spectacular, and I cannot wait. It's going to be a game changer for that neighborhood. Recommendation is to approve the resolution.
We have motion, approve the resolution authorizing that reconstruction of existing sidewalks and curbs on Colerain Avenue by Odot.
I'll second that.
Any discussions?
I think the long fought for Duke project would be a catalyst for a lot of very positive change on that stretch of Colerain Avenue. And even though you, me, Raj, Matt, Greg got pretty beat up over that for the last couple of years, we've continued to push forward, and it is a lot of people didn't look down the road 2 or 3 years. I think it is making a huge difference, and I know Raj has been beating the door down with ODOT trying to get money sent this way, and I just appreciate everybody's hard work on it.
Good. Thanks, Dan. In 2020, our strategic planning is major thing. The residents spoke up. They want the sidewalk to be built in Colerain Township. I think we are moving forward on that project, and it's all happening without any cost from the residents. Sidewalk is an important thing that our residents wanted it. We're doing it. We're building a lot of sidewalks. So good work.
One thing to keep in mind also is this is one of many sidewalk projects that are underway. These projects take forever, and it's very frustrating how much patience it requires. But this is between John Rose and Shady Crest, and this is in addition to the project that's 100% funded by ODOT with no local match that'll construct a sidewalk from Banning to Burnside, so very, very close to this project. So, there will be a new sidewalk on a significant stretch of Colerain Avenue here soon. We're really excited about it.
It's a very, that area we're building a sidewalk, and previous to that, there's a lot of pedestrian people got hit. And this is going to really help to reduce that, a lot of accidents and people getting hit on the Colerain Avenue.
It does get people back off the road, because people do need to walk along there, and right now they're walking along the edge of the curb or in the little grass that's there, and if I can get them 4 or 5 feet back off the road, you're gonna just definitely reduce the incidence of people getting brushed by cars or cars swerving to avoid, and then sadly, we've had several deaths over there.
Including Officer Woods. And though he wasn't on the sidewalk at the time, he was responding to an emergency. But what's really neat about this design is it's going to be an 8 foot. We're trying to get 8 feet of sidewalk there, in addition to landscaping like street trees. Think street trees, decorative pedestrian scale lighting, similar to what we see at Springdale and Colerain. And other landscaping. So hopefully it softens that area and really changes the character. The theory is that private investment will follow the public investment, which in this case is following private investment at Duke. So we're all working together to make something happen.
That's great work over there.
It's more than's been done there in the last 30 years, and just in the last 2.
Yes, sir.
It's a very aggressive plan, and we made it happen.
Right. Another example of implementation of the corridor plan.
Yeah, good job, Jeff. Go ahead. If you no further discussions, Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item of new business is a motion to authorize the Township Administrator to execute an agreement with Northwest Local School District for a flashing pedestrian signal at West Kemper and Wincanton Drive. The recommendation is to adopt this motion. This is the result of, over time, the relationship between the township and the school district has, I believe, improved greatly, and we meet frequently. One of the things that they have raised is a real concern about children walking home from Pleasant Run Elementary and having to cross the busy Kemper Road. Kemper Road is a county road, and the school district approached Hamilton County Engineer's Office about creating a new crosswalk with a flashing light that hangs over it. And the engineer said that was possible to do, but they did not have it in their plans to pay for that or maintain it or own it. And so the school district is willing to pay for the construction of the crosswalk and the light. They will get a warranty for 1 year their request, the school district's request of the township, is to own and maintain that piece of infrastructure into the future after the 1-year warranty period. So, given that this, affects the safety of children in our community, we are recommending the adoption of a motion to authorize the execution of the agreement.
I'll motion to authorize the township administrator execute agreement with Northwest Local School District for flashing pedestrian signal at West Kemper Road and Wincanton Drive.
And I will second it.
Go ahead. Yeah, Jane
Seconded.
seconded. Okay, any discussions?
Sure, there was quite a long history of opportunity for better relationship between the school district and the township trustees, and I heard about that for years at another time in my life, and just the difference in that relationship with you meeting with the treasurer and the superintendent and others at the school district. It's a level of communication that never existed until just, 3 years ago or so. And we've done a lot of working together with the school district, because to the person sitting at home, they probably wonder why it seems sometimes that the various government entities don't communicate with each other. And in fact, I think we've changed that substantially, and this is a great example of it. And I know we've bounced this around for a while, and we've worked it out so that they are paying for all the installation in the first year of it, and it'll be just up to us to maintain it, which I think is going to be go over there and freshen up the paint, every year or whatever. But there is a lot of Colerain Township residents and specifically school children that walk along there, and it's anybody that hasn't been up there, take a little drive. There's a lot of traffic, and I think it's going to be a great safety improvement. So.
Yes, sir.
It's another, like Dan said, and it's another example of how Township is building a good relationship with the Northwest School District and working together. And this is another prime example of our Township care about the residents, our children. It's a very big example of we care about our children, their safety. So even the county said no, but we step forward. We make this happen. This is another program. Also, the sidewalk comes out of it. So it's a great thing we're doing for our township, protecting our children.
You might recall coming in the door when you and I started
Yeah.
coincidental at the same time.
Yeah.
We were getting pretty beat up over.
Yeah.
There's no relationship with the school district. I just think it's not because of me and you. It's because of a lot of things, but I just think we're better off cooperating than not. And to those that would disagree, I just think there's just been a huge change in that relationship. And, we've kind of directed you and Mr. Weckbach to facilitate that relationship. And so thanks for going into what started out kind of rocky, and still is a little rocky once in a while, but as soon as they come around to thinking right. But we do talk to them about everything. So everything that affects both of us, that conversation happens with your regular meetings, and this is a great example of reaching an agreement on something that's pretty important.
Sir.
It's part of all the strategic planning. We need to build a good relationship through the schools, children. So it's a great project.
Very good.
Happy to help with this project. If it stops one accident, it's worth every dime of it.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger,
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
Mr. Waller.
Aye.
Thank you, Board. The next item of new business is a motion to authorize the release of a scope of services for the Groesbeck Strategic Reinvestment Plan. This was contemplated in our request for funds from Hamilton County for Community Development Block Grant dollars, CDBG. Those are federal dollars, not local dollars. It's following the same game plan that we had in Northbrook, and has resulted in a number of projects, being implemented in the Northbrook area. So our hope is that we can recreate the success that we've had in Northbrook in Groesbeck. There's a great group of people down there that are willing to take this on. So the idea is that we would release the scope of services tomorrow. If you authorize that, we would get the responses back in a month or so, and we do some interviews with candidates with the local group in Groesbeck, and hopefully have this back for consideration on signing a contract with a vendor in June. Hopefully starting the project also in June, and wouldn't it be nice if we could wrap it up by the end of this year? So the recommendation is to authorize the release of the scope of services.
I motion that we authorize release of scope of services for the Groesbeck Strategic Reinvestment Plan.
Second.
Any discussions?
And I looked at this last Friday, and I'm looking at it again, and it looks like we have 20,000 in community block development grant dollars, and this project is funded through community development block grant and has a budget of 30, and then we have an additional 20.
Yes, to implement.
Right, okay, so great. That's we're using dollars that are not local property tax dollars. Granted, they do originate through all of us that pay taxes, but it's not specific dollars that are out of our property tax collections for the township.
Correct. If you'll recall, I believe it was the Laura Linda house that we demolished. That was one of the implementations of the Northbrook plan, was to eliminate blight. Do you remember when Mr. O'Brien, the neighbor?
Hello, Mr. O'Brien, I
was
hope
very
you're
concerned
watching.
about that
He's
property.
a good guy.
He's a very good guy, and we were able to resolve that issue with CDBG money to execute the Northbrook plan.
Right, and I appreciate you rising to the challenge of go out and look for any outside funding you can so we can preserve our local tax dollars to fund our operations here.
Yes, sir.
So talking about, we had the residents earlier addressed about we spend money for the project, Northbrook. You and I would talk to some investors going to go in the business in the Northbrook area. That's still use this master plan as a guide to approach to build our future plans. We need to have like a guidelines to follow. I still, personally, I still feel that lot of work to be done in the Northbrook area, and a lot of work to done, and is either by the township government. Also, we try to include the private sector people that want to invest in the area. And Groesbeck also a very dynamic place, and that's a gateway to a Colerain Township. Then again, we need to have a planning set up. We need to have like a guide like we have in the corridor plans. We can work together. And also we talked about the creating a TIF district around Groesbeck area. So the people you select, make sure they have a great background, the economic development, great background, a lot of vision. It's a measurable project they can do. They can sit back. We're going to finish this. I think the Groesbeck community also, the citizens work hard. They go and clean the weekends, other days clean the trash. The community also coming together. I'd love to see the Groesbeck and Northbrook combined together, have a great dynamic community. It's happening soon.
So I firmly believe with economics, there's a contagion factor that if things starts to develop in a positive way, it's contagious to communities surrounding it. If the things start to develop in a negative way, it's contagious. To me, Groesbeck is an unpolished gem right now. It's an opportunity to kind of remake that area. We've lost a couple. We lost the Frisch's and the Waltz Barbecue and the Kroger, and
Which are in Green Township, by the way.
right. Well, that's
The Green Township needs to step it up
right.
down there. Make sure that people know a lot of people don't realize that, sorry, Matt, a lot of people don't realize that stretch of Colerain Avenue south of Burnside is Green Township. You call your buddy Frank, tell him to get to work and get something going there, because people think that's us, and it's not. And we don't-
yeah. They have, and it butts up against Cincinnati as well. But I think that I think that future development is going to have a positive contagion factor, and I'm interested in bringing Groesbeck into more of a kind of a destination kind of community. I think it has that potential eventually. So I support that for those reasons.
Any further discussions?
Not from me.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, please, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Unger,
Aye?
Mr. Rajagopal,
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Board. The final item of new business this evening is a discussion of the facility master plan, and Mr. Weckbach will present that.
Good evening, Board. Before you is actually just a first reading on the facility master plan. I think as a few of you have discussed at different points during trustee meetings, you don't get to talk about these things outside of board meetings, and so this is really an opportunity for you all to discuss the facility master plan, provide feedback to staff, so that hopefully at the next board meeting, we can come forward with a contract for your consideration for adoption. There's a memorandum in the packet that outlines the process that we went through, some of the factors that we were considering in reviewing the various firms that applied, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have at this time.
That this is a first reading. When you and I discussed this, you had sent me one that Hamilton County had done several years ago, and I kind of looked through it, and being somewhat familiar with the county, some of those did get implemented, and a lot of it is still on the back burner of the stove if the county would decide to implement it. So that's what this is. It's just having an independent person, rather than having something politically driven, look at it and make some recommendations on what we would want to improve or enhance in the future.
Yeah, and the big thing that came out of that Hamilton County plan was the energy efficiency recommendations that led to some long-term utility cost savings. And so, you know, a big part of this is going to involve that and incorporate that as well. So they'll be going through the guts of all of our buildings, do an independent diagnostic assessment of what we've got there, provide recommendations on, you know, maybe we've got an air chiller that's too big, or maybe we've got a hot water pump that's too small, and things that could lead to us being inefficient in how our facilities operate. So that's one component of this overall plan.
Jeff, this is something they've never done it before, this master plan.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, probably the closest thing would have been back when this complex was constructed. And so, but I don't even know that that was necessarily part of a master plan. That was just several projects that all happened at the same time.
Yeah. So one thing about, I mentioned many meetings about you guys, you always have now, we have a plan. We have a strategic plan, goals to follow. You know, before it used to be like a runaway train, we got nothing. But now, everything you're doing is, it's all measurable output, so you can come back and quantify what you've done. You know, like I'm a big believer of evidence-based program. They taught, like I got in my mind, and that's what we're doing. We're doing accordingly. Everything is able to quantify. It's a project you're creating it. It's in the long run. You know, if people see it, oh, what's this? But in the long run, you can be able to present, this is a project we did it. You can measure the result of this.
If I could jump in here, so you know, if you notice, we have done a lot of planning, and what happens is we've got the sidewalk plan, we've got the Northbrook plan, we've got the corridor plan, we've got several, and each year we listen to the trustees, we listen to the residents, and we figure out what the top priorities are for all the stakeholders, and then we bring in items from those plans into our what it becomes our work plan for the year, which is our strategic plan for the year. We've got initiatives that we work towards, and we're pulling those in from all those other plans, and then this is what we're going to do this year. Now next year, maybe the priorities shift, and then we pull in different, but we've got all of these ideas that are ready to go. And what's great about having a plan is that when a funding opportunity presents itself, we can show that to the funding agency and be like, look, this isn't just something we cooked up overnight. This is something that the township has committed to for years, or a year, or whatever, has adopted in a plan. So that's why we do what we do. That's how we do what we do. Hopefully that sort of peels the curtain back a little bit.
And that's how you get outside funding for stuff,
Yes.
is when you can say, I have a plan. And it's not been done by 3 elected people. It's been done by engineers that are stamped and licensed to do
Yes.
such plans, which might move it up when there's several agencies competing for funding, and we come in with a solid plan that's been reviewed by people licensed by the state of Ohio to do such things.
Right.
We stand a better chance of gaining funding for it.
That's right.
Great work, Jeff.
That's a first reading, so if somebody out there wanted to look at it, where would they find the plan at?
Yes, so all of the proposals are actually online. The link is in the agenda packet. I'll read it out loud. It's www.colerain.org/document center/index/307.
And to get to that, they could go to our agendas, which are easily found on the website, and they will find that under item 10E.
Correct.
I'm just saying that so folks out there know where to look.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reckbach. The next items on the agenda are, there are no old business items.
Could I bring up something under old business? Because like I said earlier,
Go ahead, go ahead.
like I said earlier, we don't talk to each other, and I know there was some talk about a licensing system for these charitable collection boxes. Could you tell me what the status of that is?
Sure, yeah. We don't have the capacity in our zoning department right now to execute that. That's on the back burner. So as soon as we get staffed back up in development and zoning, that'll be one of the first things that they work on. But the idea is that there'd be not so much a licensing, but a registration process in which they would, the owners of the boxes would identify a contact person and demonstrate that they have the support of the property owner on which the box sits. So there'd be two things that would happen. We'd have a contact number when it gets overflowing, pick up the phone and call them, and two, we demonstrate, an agreement between the property owner and the box owner. That's what we
So
would.
one is materialized up the street from where I live in the parking lot of White Oak Christian Church. It's Matthew 25 Ministries, which I believe, from what I know about them, is an awesome organization. It does great work, and I imagine they use that box to collect clothing or whatever. Or I don't know that you're allowed to leave small furniture there or anything, but I know that they're a sort of first responder to disaster areas, whether it's a flood or whatever weather event strikes a part of the country. But so I guess it's up to White Oak. I'm sure White Oak Christian Church their administration is aware that there's a box on their property. I guess at this point, Matthew 25 probably just went to White Oak Christian Church, or maybe that was internally generated from one of their congregants that said, hey, I work for Matthew 25. Can we put a box on the property? And the administration probably said yes. So what we would do, what you're thinking is that, hey, you need to let the township know that this is there, so we have a contact number. Now, with White Oak Christian Church, you could probably look them up and call them and say, hey, somebody left some furniture there or something, so could you please get it cleaned up?
Yep. There have been instances.
Because that's a local thing, and now there's some properties that are owned by out-of-state folks that we don't know who to call.
There have
So-
been instances of box owners that are out of state with no contact information, and then when we contact the property owner on which the box sits, they say, we don't want that box there. We've gotten rid of that box 3 times and it keeps coming back. So, in that instance, they would not be able to get a registration, and so they would not be able to have the box. And one of the things that we will discuss with our law director is, if there is a box that is not registered after a specific period of time, are we able to declare that box a nuisance and remove it at that point?
And that's a process that takes time.
Yes.
And we're not a government that comes rolling onto private property and make changes without due process. So, tonight we approved some cleanup of nuisance properties, but that takes time. We have to have our code enforcement person go out and look at it and cite it and send it to zoning, and zoning has to get it on an agenda, and, we meet every other week, so it just takes, and now that the ones we approve tonight, you'll send that list to our lawn vendor.
Yep.
Or our junk vendor, and so, it just takes time to go out and get stuff cleaned up, but what people do deserve due process.
Yes.
But at the same time, I understand that when people are leaving junk that doesn't make it into the boxes, and the boxes aren't serviced regularly, it does require junk. So I appreciate, and I think, Matt, you've kind of spearheaded some of that maybe, haven't you, or?
Yeah, trying. I think that it's a frustration that we all kind of have. The bottom line is that we need to, the folks that are dumping in there need to be more responsible. That's not, we live next to landfill, for gosh sakes. It's frustrating because I think that it shows how we treat our home, and I'm not happy with that.
And that said, you're right, and we happen to have a very high-quality sanitation vendor that happens to be headquartered here in our township, and if you have something that's really not donation quality and you need to get rid of it, please take it up to Rumpke, and you go up to the scale house and you pay them a small fee, and they'll help you dispose of it properly. And for $10 or $20 or $30, take your couch, if you've got a truck and you're taking a couch and you're setting it next to one of these donation boxes, take your truck and drive it up to Rumpke and get rid of it, or call Rumpke, and they will advise you, the best method to get rid of stuff. I mean, they're very nice people and easy to work with, and so I'm glad that we've been able to have that discussion, because I wasn't sure where we were at on the
Yes.
licensing process with those boxes. So
It-
maybe you can give us an update in a couple weeks if just say, hey, there's no update, or hey, we've taken this step.
Sure.
So,
You got it.
so thanks for letting me bring that up.
Yeah, no problem. So the next items are on the consent agenda, and there are 4 consent agenda items this evening. First one is a contract with OpenGov for support services. We have, using CARES Act money, we were able to purchase a higher quality customer service response module. So this is going to help our code enforcement team respond to requests for services for, tall grass and trash and all those kinds of things. With the disruption, personnel disruption, we just want to make sure that our team has access to support services through OpenGov, and so we purchased the premium support package, which is basically a number of hours with their service team to train us on how to use this. The second item is a contract with Marty Kohler. It's a personal services agreement. Marty has graciously rejoined the team in a temporary part-time capacity. He's currently responsible for our permits and zoning commission and BZA, and we are grateful to him for the help. The third item is a donation acceptance. We are grateful for a $100 donation from Scott Barbie, and that was for the Colerain Township Community Center. And the final item on the consent agenda is a new hire of a seasonal maintenance workers. So the position was posted, we received applications and conducted interviews. We made a conditional offer of employment to Noah Martini, Matthew Moore, and Mariah Balmer. The wage for the job is $11 per hour for those who have not served in the role before, and $12.50 per hour for those who have served before. They will work 40 hours, up to 40 hours per week through the season, and contingent upon board approval, they are eligible to begin work either May 3rd or May 10th, depending on the employee. So the recommendation is to approve all the consent items.
I would motion that we approve the consent items as described by Mr. Mills.
Second.
Any discussions?
I know who Scott Barbie is. He's a good person, and thank you for your donation, Scott.
Yeah, thank you for the.
Absolutely.
Any further discussions? Mr. Baker, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
The next on the agenda is the fiscal office report.
Thank you, Board. The only thing that I have for you this evening are purchase orders and resolutions that need your signature, but I will get those to you after the meeting, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If, I don't think so, we need executive sessions, okay? If not, then I call for the adjournment. We have motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it. Any discussions?
It's at 8:22 p.m.
8:22 p.m.
Just for
The Board of Trustee meeting is at,
We need a vote.
need a vote. Mr. Baker's records,
Mr.
it's
Baker.
8:22 p.m.
Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
aye.
Mr. Waller?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
Thank you to
gentlemen.
everyone watching.
Thank you, everyone watching.